In our study this week, The Risen Lord and Rejoicing in the Resurrection, we look at the following books: Mark chapter 15 verses 42 to 47, Mark chapter 16 verses 1 to 20, Colossians chapter 2 verses 10 to 12, 1 Corinthians chapter 15 verses 1 to 8, Daniel chapter 9 verses 24 to 27, John chapter 20 verses 11 to 18. Our main text is from the book of Mark chapter 16 verses 6, and it says, "But he said to them, 'Do not be alarmed. You seek Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified. He is risen. He is not here. See the place where they laid him.'" The crucifixion of Jesus destroyed the hopes and faith of his disciples. It was a dark weekend for them, as they not only grappled with their master's death, but feared for their own lives as well. In Mark chapter 16 verses 1 to 20, the final chapter in this gospel, we will look at what followed his death. We will look at the timing of Jesus' resurrection and why the women came to the tomb on that Sunday morning. Adventists have sometimes shied away from resurrection morning because of the way it is misused to support Sunday's sacredness. We will instead see how we can rejoice in the Sunday resurrection, despite the false theology that has, unfortunately, arisen from it. All the gospel writers agree that Jesus died on the day that they identify as the preparation, which is stated in the books of Matthew chapter 27 verses 62, Mark chapter 15 verses 42, Luke chapter 23 verses 54, John chapter 19 verses 14, John chapter 19 verses 31, and John chapter 19 verses 42. Most commentators understand this as a reference to Sunset Thursday through Sunset Friday. Jesus died late on Friday afternoon and was then quickly buried before sunset. During the Sabbath, the Lord rested in the grave, and all of Jesus' disciples rested as well. And they rested on the Sabbath according to the commandment. A rather strange action if, in fact, Jesus had lessened, at least in their minds, the obligation to keep the fourth commandment. On Saturday night, the women bought spices, and on Sunday morning, they went to the tomb with the desire to complete the typical burial process. Of course, Jesus was not there. As early as the 2nd century, Christians saw significance in the fact that Jesus rose on Sunday. This became the basis for Sunday's sacredness. But is that what the New Testament teaches? Colossians chapter 2 verses 10 to 12 reads, "And you are complete in him, who is the head of all principality and power. In him you were also circumcised with the circumcision made without hands, by putting off the body of the sins of the flesh, by the circumcision of Christ, buried with him in baptism, in which you also were raised with him through faith in the working of God, who raised him from the dead." Not a word in the Bible hints at Sunday's sacredness as a memorial of the resurrection. That memorial is baptism. Romans chapter 6 verses 4 states, "Therefore we were buried with him through baptism into death, that just as Christ was raised from the dead by the glory of the Father, even so we also should walk in newness of life." Regardless of the false theology regarding Sunday worship, as Adventists we must rejoice in the Sunday morning resurrection of Jesus. Jesus has triumphed over death, and in his resurrection, we have the surety of ours. In fact, on the first day of the week, on Sunday, Paul handles this matter in the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 16 verses 1 and 2. In early Christianity, Sunday meetings served multiple purposes, including the collection of offerings, where Paul instructs the Corinthians to set aside contributions on the first day of the week for the saints. This tradition likely originated from gatherings where believers would come together to worship and support the needs of the community, including financial contributions. Thus, Sunday meetings were not solely for worship, but also for practical matters like charitable giving, reflecting the early Christian emphasis on communal support and generosity. Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, who according to his abundant mercy has begotten us again to a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, Look at the certainty Paul had about the resurrection of Jesus. How can we have that certainty as well?